for podcasts, and don't forget to subscribe and download. Support Narative's
You didn't need to say it again. You liked it the first time. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Narrative Live. It's a bit of a rush show tonight. We just sort of scrambled on the air to talk about the Republican National Convention, or so they call it. It's not even really a convention. It's something akin to a convention. Feels more like a 2-hour propaganda exercise every night. So we want to counter-program that with some interesting information about the criminal activities of some of the people around the Trump campaign from 2016 and even until today. Hi, LB. How are you?
I'm good. I'm sorry. I'm just letting everybody know that we're live.
Thank you very much. That's very nice of you.
But I'm good. I'm really well. And
good.
I'm tired.
Good. Yes.
And
it's been a long few weeks. It's been a long few days, and it feels like it's been a week already, and it's only Tuesday.
I know.
That's crazy.
Hi,
Eric.
Sorry about it only being Tuesday.
Hi, Zeb.
You have been hard at work identifying who the rogues in the gallery might be in our world here. It's a segment you originally wanted to call.
Last several years, yes.
It's a segment you originally called something. It's
Today in Trader Doom.
Today in Trader Doom. Now, where did you get that name from?
Well, there's traders. They're on the Greased Luge down to prison. Mm-hmm. And I just like to sit in the stands and watch them go by and go, ha! And that's the segment as they rocket on their way to the most likely the Southern District of New York, by way of Interpol red notices or wherever. You
they
can
have
get some
been
different
busy
stuff in
at the
Nevada.
SDNY. So let's start with what's happened.
They're always busy.
Well, they've been really, really very busy there. Let's start off with what happened last week. So this is not all last week, but we learned that there's Steve Bannon. We learned about him last week. And we learned about Paul Manafort potentially being an intelligence asset. And then there's a little bit about Eric Trump, who also found himself in some hot water. And let me get LB back in here because I think she can't hear us right now.
I can hear.
Oh, good.
I'm
Okay.
here.
Now everybody, sorry. There's only 2 boxes, and 3 microphones. So we were just mentioning that was sort of last week. We had Bannon's indictment on fraud charges. We've had Manafort potentially showing up as being part of the intelligence group that did the hack and leak campaign. And then, of course, Eric Trump had issues last week, towards the end of last week, to the tune of $100 million. Anyone? Do either of you know a lot about that, about the Eric Trump situation? Can you fill us in a little bit more about how serious that is, even though it's still a civil case?
Yeah, Eric, go ahead.
Well, I want to take a quote off. I believe it was Eli Honig, who is a contributor to MSNBC, who said, "Well, yes, it's a civil case now, but I can't tell you the great number of cases that I dealt with as criminal that started off as civil." Right. Matters. Right. # foreshadowing. Right.
I was surprised by that number. That's a large number, $100 million in just tax evasion. It seems like an incredible amount of evasion.
They're criminals.
They're criminals.
They're really big, dumb criminals.
How do you hide $100 million, though? I mean, it's a substantial amount of money.
Wow.
Through LLCs.
That's how you do it. It's almost like it's my first day and I haven't learned anything.
If you're using a charity to do that, Eric, what happens to you?
You go to jail.
Go
to jail.
Oh, you mean if you use the tax-free status in order to pay for your girlfriend's butt lifts and net jets or whatever, and then that's
So Steve Bannon and him actually have something in common. They were both doing it not for charity but for nonprofit. So there you go. Got caught.
And I gotta. You saw how you had this typical spasm of the U.S. media trying to fit this into the buckets they already chose. They're like, oh, this is weird. This is white nationalism. No, it's not. They're criminals and or traitors.
And everyone's trying to frame these as political hit jobs, and of course they're not hit jobs. They're just crimes. Years and years of crimes. Just criming.
They got Capone on taxes. They
That
got
is
cabal
true.
on taxes because the numbers. Okay, how much is in your bank? How'd it get there? Okay, did you pay on that? Yes, or is it the wrong amount? That's called an audit. No, that's called you. So you were evading this and living
Evading.
very well.
That no one likes tax
And-
evaders, but like there's lots of them are out there. A lot of them in the crime
Well,
world.
And mail fraud is really bad, and bank fraud is really bad. And if you use the USPS to do any of your frauding, it's gonna be
Wait.
bad. They're gonna show up.
Wait. Is there? I forget in the federal statutes. None of us are attorneys, but is there an Amazon fraud?
An Amazon fraud? No, not yet. I don't believe it's
Specifically, does
statute.
it say 18 U.S. code?
I don't believe
Amazon
there is.
fraud? No.
I don't believe there is.
eBay fraud? Not
no,
yet. No.
not yet.
No matter
They should
how
have
well
one.
you
They should
basic
have one.
But mail fraud, you
Definitely.
if you use the U.S. Postal Service, which is part of the U.S. Constitution, which is part of our whole thing, you touch that anyway. You use it for crime. That's its own federal felony. You mess with the mail on purpose, it's a felony. You sabotage it with intent or in a conspiracy, felony. But there's no Jeff Bezos felonies
Right.
so far.
And we
So,
can't put
you know,
Louis
it's-
DeJoy in here yet either. So we will maybe in the future because we've run out of space here.
my gosh,
we
Goomba logistics guy. I
Yeah.
can't with it.
The logistics
I can't
guy.
with it. Look, I've been spending a lot of time trying to get everybody to understand that organized crime is not a Scorsese movie. And then this guy shows up and fucks up my narrative.
He really is central casting, isn't he?
He's straight out of some, mobbed up logistics, whatever. It's like I haven't even taken the time to look at him.
Oh, it doesn't take
just
very
been like-
long. It's there. It's
I
just there. It
know.
comes pouring out at you.
I was pointing out at you, and what I just always want to give a shout out one researcher who's like an extraordinary researcher, Dana, and it says Dana on Twitter.
Yeah,
It says
it's
Dana.
terrific.
I mean, she's been pulling
Dana.
him apart like a frickin' surgeon. Dana used to be a very big marketing executive at a very big global company. So the business side of things, she understands. This is the thing about all of us is that our other careers, maybe we are or we're accomplished, and those sort of successful accomplishments are things to pay attention to because there's expertise that comes with that.
Mhm.
And just because it looks like we're just Twitter accounts, the Twitter world where nobody knows anything. No,
We
you've got a
we
marketing
have had
executive.
lives before.
You have a senior executive in there
Yeah.
who can rip apart Louis DeJoy's logistics company.
Yeah,
right?
I love the
Start
money that
talking
was being
about
the trust fund, the Chow fund has acquired $36 million or $30 million in XPO shares. But that's a different story. Let's talk about who's coming up next in the.
Kind of different.
Because they're having this convention. It's awful. Have you guys been watching the Republican National Convention or whatever that is?
We're watching it. We want to talk to everybody too about we're trying to help use it to redirect people to raise some money for Joe and Kamala.
Oh yeah, it's a good opportunity.
And I put a little game out yesterday. I think it was too complicated. I was trying to have fun with it. Oh my
So
God.
tell them how it showed up.
Sev. So I literally make up this thing. I'm like thinking that Junior is going to go. And I almost landed it with Junior's name on it of like, he's going to say Beijing Biden as a new nickname. And then
You gotta explain it because we don't have the visual here. You had a bingo card and you have your $5 list. If they
Oh
say it's
yeah.
Like
$500.
the
It's a premium
Sleepy
spot.
Joe was $5.
They're going to
then
launch
25.
this nickname. Yeah. And he did it.
And then
He
five
did-
on
he
the
did do it,
$500
yes,
column
yes.
was Beijing Biden.
Wow. Well done. Your foresight or your sixth sense is working really well.
I did troll his. I did look at all of his. I had to go back in and look at that horrible human beings activity on his Twitter account and sort of. Okay, I'm like, okay, what semantics are they getting ready for? But I didn't see that in there, so I don't know.
There you go.
Maybe
What's
I
going to
was
happen
a little
tonight?
too
Do you know
close
what's
to
going to
it.
happen tonight? We do not.
No, but here's our game tonight. So our game tonight is we just got it down to one word. Okay, if you hear this one word, if you hear them say this one word, however many times they say it, $5. Just start adding up the $5, and you could put your limit on it of like, okay, I can only afford $20 or whatever.
Right.
But
Okay.
sky's the limit, right? If you can do it. So the one word, if you hear any of these, horrible trolls that are all of a sudden the party, say the word Democrats. Every time they say Democrats, I want you to put $5 in the kitty and add it up, and then we have a link on there, and you can go to the link. It's directly to Joe and Kamala. It has nothing to do with PACs or anything like that. And you're gonna have to write it in because it's like their fundraising thing.
That's great.
It has a bigger number.
So you're getting the Republicans to fundraise for Joe and Kamala. That's fantastic.
Republicans are going to fundraise for Joe and Kamala tonight.
The more they mention them, the more they get money. That's amazing.
The more they say Democrats, the more money for Joe and Kamala.
You are one smart person. Thank you very much for doing that. That's going to be great. So I'm looking forward to tonight because it is going to be full of interesting is probably the wrong word, but controversial things happening. One of them is Mike Pompeo live from Jerusalem on not State Department money. I mean, it's just going to happen. There's no way to stop it. I was going to wait to talk about him a little later on, but why don't we talk a little bit about him? And he's currently now under congressional investigation. Welcome to the gang. Welcome to the gang. You're in it now, Mike. It's not his first investigation. He's had a few from his IG, but he fired those guys.
Crimes are still illegal.
Tell us about Mike's, looming court crises or court issues.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, where do we begin? He got rid of the inspector general, which one never does at any agency. It's just the point of an inspector general. Yeah. So they tried to gut that because they know how many bad things they've done. And the one that has come out most, well, I believe they had 5 investigations going that we know about that were mature enough to tank just bajillions of careers, no doubt. But one of the issues that we heard about was Mike Pompeo working with Donald Trump to fake an emergency about Iran. And I believe was an IG report. I forget how we got this information from the federal government, but it's like it was Elliot Engel on the House Foreign Relations Committee, I believe, said it's a fake crisis when you've planned for it 20 days in advance. Well, it's true.
It's true.
If you know what's coming 3 weeks out, then it's not. That's just part of the calendar, I guess.
It wasn't really a crisis.
Yes. No. I mean, look, these guys are all let's just
these are ministers of propaganda.
Right.
That's what he is.
They're Iranian money launderers. Oh, we're so afraid of Iran. We don't like the Israel, and we're going to get peace in the Middle East. You're all laundering Iran's money and China's oil money and Pakistan's money. You're all doing it through your central banks, through your biggest banks, through real estate. It's interesting that Joe Biden in his speech has come down to look, this is light and dark. We're getting pretty binary here. Yeah. You're either on the side of law and order or chaos and mafia. You're on team good guy or you're on team bad guy. And normally the world is not that simple a place. I mean, I was just thinking about this today, that if you go back, because I was marveling with a friend at how coherent the Democrat messages been. Right. When it's like, man, you barely think it's Democrats behind it because it's so clear and punchy and it works. Light versus dark. But, I was thinking back 16 years ago, 2004, we're in the midst of the Iraq war. And if you said the Democrats versus the Republicans in that year is just a question of light versus dark. Well, there were plenty of people in the Bush administration who were dedicated government professionals. Not all of them were good, and many of them have shown themselves to be, villainous later on. But as such, because there were plenty of people, wasn't Mike Hayden? Was he at NSA or CIA during that period of time?
I think he's NSA, but I don't know.
I think he was NSA, right?
Do you know,
so if you got a guy like
I don't know. I don't know about the year. I think
it's I think it's that time period.
Okay.
But you can't just say, we got, Bob Gates later on in the Bush administration. You can't just say this is light versus dark, because there were some people who had really terrible policies and there were some people who were well-meaning. So it would have been really ugly for the Democrats to say this is light versus dark. That wouldn't have been entirely true, even if you really believed heavily in it. But right now,
Oh, you've got a very clear dark,
This
so
is
it's really easy to counter
this
that.
is you on 100% Jared in the White House or 0% Jared. Pick
Right.
your
Right.
lane.
I think since we have this fake dominionist Pompeo up on the screen here, and we're looking at
Thank
there
you.
is,
Not really.
not real, no. And at some point, you know, my whole background will become very clear, and it'll be interesting. I'll just leave it at that. But there's, there is a line in Scripture, and I don't have it memorized, but where it's coming from. I apologize for that. But it was talking about the word, and so the word is of the light is what the intention of the Scripture is, and the line is, and the darkness has never mastered it. Right? The dark has never mastered the light. Can't do it. Can't get in there. Can't mess with the word. Right? And that's talking about truth. That's talking about light. And we had that incredible thing. I got to tell you guys, General Hayden spoke at the end of a sort of a counter programming to the RNC conference. And he spoke at the end of it, and he was speaking about truth. And I retweeted the YouTube link to that. I know, Eric, you did as well. Everyone should see it. I mean, I don't get super emotional lately. I'm trying to, just keep plugging ahead.
How do you do that? That's impressive.
It's really hard,
Yeah.
but I just burst into tears when I was listening to him. Because it was so vulnerable, and then he shared sort of like where the truth was in his heart. I'm tearing up talking about it right now, because it was just such a moment of vulnerability to just talk to us.
We're hearing so many great words from so many incredible orators, and John Meacham the other day, I think, was phenomenal in the Democratic National Convention, and keeps finding the ways of putting all American history into context, and everything seems to be pointing us to this moment. And even Biden in his speech was so precise about, this is the moment, this is our mission, it's up to now, everything has led up to now, and it really feels like this is the moment, and there's no excuses for not knowing that.
Everybody, like I'm never going, hey, give money. One thing a couple years ago, I was like, it was a wildlife project that I believed in, but it's not, and it was fun to raise money for Tedra Cobb as like a movement that was happening because Elise Stefanik was so horrible in that House intelligence briefing, or hearings. But I really think whatever anybody can give to Biden Harris, I think it's now time. That helps get the votes. It does. It helps, and we need every single vote. We need everyone voting that can vote. It's so important. This is it. You're hearing every leader from Obama, right, to everybody saying, this is it. This is the election. This is when you have to show up. This is it. This is for all the marbles, everybody. And so, truly giving money to that campaign helps the vote. And it's also going to help. I think there's going to be a massive legal fight on the other side of this.
Yes,
even every state goes blue. I think it's going to be a really intense, massive legal fight until, he just sort of crawls away and runs away, which he'll do. But they're going to need money for that too. They're just
I've never ever
keep needing money until inauguration day. Truly,
I've never donated to a single politician in my life, because I just think as a journalist you shouldn't. And I voted only in one election, which was the South African election where Nelson Mandela was elected president, because I just felt like, that was just historically significant and worthy of sort of breaking that rule. And there was also no option. You weren't going to vote for the apartheid to continue. So that one I felt okay about it, and this one feels the same. You can't really in any way think of supporting Donald Trump if you're a rational human being, and you're thinking about the consequences of voting him into a second term. So there is only one vote, and you can't be biased in that case.
Right.
Anyhow, we digress. Let's go back to Mike.
No, that was profound. I don't know how many people in the audience know that you're from South Africa and understand what it would have been like to live through that moment that you did, and that was a profound turning, like nations almost you get maybe once every few hundred years, then you get to live through that. And for you to say that this moment is like that one.
It's very similar. It's very similar. And because of the implications of what it feels like to live in a police state, I don't think people realize how pernicious and awful and claustrophobic it is living under a police state. And we are, that is what we're facing. I mean, we can call it many other things, but that's what happens when you get dictatorships. And that's what happens when you have authoritarian governments. They take away your rights, and slowly but surely they'll stop you from saying things that you believe, from doing things that you believe, and from exercising those rights. And you might not even notice that you're not doing them anymore, but just there's a system that gets put in place that clamps down on you. And that becomes very, very restrictive and in a very fear-filled environment, because in order to maintain those dictatorships, they need machines to maintain it. They need these, security services that spy on people. They need to be able to control what people say and think. And that's not something America's ever had to deal with and should never have to deal with. So the stakes are not, I don't think everyone really understands how complicated it will become if we get into a second term of Trump and beyond that, and then how impossible almost it is to reverse that in a quick amount of time. It takes a long time once those institutions come into play, whether they're like the Stasi or the KGB or those kind of super security services that start monitoring Americans. I don't get all depressing here and dystopic, but that is really
depressing. I mean,
that is really what we're facing.
No, I mean again, you grew up living under those governments, and we're getting a taste of this now. We know what the law says. We don't care. And it's on, some people are getting it on the federal level.
Thank you.
And some of us are getting it on the local level. And we're getting a taste, man. I know what this, that's what the law says. That's what the rule book says.
Look at this guy. Look at this pompous piece of shit right here on this screen. He's not supposed to be as an appointed member of the cabinet. Our Secretary of State is going to speak at the Republican National Convention and spew freaking
from a foreign country,
from Israel, and
after participating in a pact with them to do this crazy shifting in Middle East policy that's just illegal and wrong.
This is some real horse shit right here. Right. This is really, these rules do not apply to us. In fact, not only do they not apply to us, they're ours. And we're going to wield them however we want. Yeah. That's the other side of it.
Yep.
They're not going to get rid of those laws.
Rules when we use
them against us. Right.
Yeah,
it's horrible.
When it's the rules for you, we'll decide you're going to lose your job. We'll send the police into your home. We will have our guys. We'll take your money. We'll fine you, whatever, and our guys can skate. So you're either on our team or not. But that is the most base. There's not a civilization in history that has ever lived like that. It's pre-Magna Carta. I mean, you're talking about sliding these idiots. These mouth-breathing chuckleheads they've been hypnotized by this propaganda, and they think, we're the masters of the universe. They have no idea that they're these tiny owned little puppets. They use these big words about civilization. They never took a history class they ever understood, because if they did, they go, wait a minute, the year 1200 something in England, the nobles and the people of England are like, whoa. We can't just have a king go around and do whatever he wants.
Right.
We got to have some rules around here. We were 300 years off of not burning witches, and we got to that. These guys they're not throwbacks to the 1950s. They're not throwbacks to even monarchies. These guys are pre-Magna Carta thugs. And there's no complex society in history that has ever lasted. So
and let me add something to that.
For all the money.
These are basically Russian assets, as far as I can tell. Like, I mean, you can't look at the American president right now and not say he's a Russian asset. Well, maybe he's Chinese and Russia or Saudi, but they're foreign assets. And so
they're not Americans?
Why are network television stations allowing foreign agents to control 2-hour blocks of network programming 5 days in a row? On our television, across all the channels, every single channel? It's unheard of.
Good question.
Do you think any other country would let any other country program 5 nights of primetime programming to say whatever they want without any restriction would never happen. Would never happen.
It would never. But it's such a dysfunctional relationship now. They're locked into one another.
Yes,
And we're talking about cable news and even broadcast, and the whole stations. It doesn't matter whether it's Fox or MSNBC or CNN. They're locked in with this guy, it's so dysfunctional. I've never seen anything like it, and they know it. They know it. It's like you're in a family, and there's a drug addict, a member of the family, and the parent just keeps writing checks and supporting. I know, and I know that they're going to use this check to fuel the addiction, and I know it's just the death of democracy. I get it. We're all going to go downhill, but and they talk about it. They talk about having awareness of what they're involved with, but they can't stop doing things the way they've always done them. They can't get out of the pattern of behavior. I honest to God, they need a program. We need a 12-step program.
I think so.
That's specifically tailored for this, because these folks, it's not like they're in, I'm not going to say, I hate that whole fake news. I hate always taking hits at them, but they're really, really, really stuck in a sick relationship. And even I did watch the RNC. I watched it on MSNBC. And it was Maddow and Nicole and Joy and Reed, and they were wonderful. And they cut away with okay, now it's actually dangerous. Now people are going to die if they listen to what these folks are saying about COVID. So we're going to go to this doctor, right? We're going to go to an expert and clear all that up, because they realized, this is just so irresponsible. We're doing this.
They did a good job, actually. That was really
tough.
They
went back in.
I know, it's so weird to do. You would never do that in the middle of a convention. You'd never interrupt, and they did a great job of doing that.
They did. They're trying, but they know what they're doing, and it can't, for some reason, it can't stop. People can't stop. They're stuck in some kind of mentality. There's some kind of story they got going on in their culture.
They already both sided this. They already said, well, pox on both their houses. This is similar. There's corruption on the Dem side, and they're not perfect. And the other people are selling our country for parts. That's really the same thing. And
they're making money. And they're getting good ratings. I mean, that's the other part that's hard for everyone to really think about, is that, for CNN is doing great. It's doing better than it's ever done, because they get to have this fight. They get to have a nightly fight between both parties.
They're programming it.
Yeah. So they're programming for it. They're encouraging it. So that's another factor. It's another factor. Anyhow, we let's go back to what we were talking.
Okay.
So let's talk about his Saudi connections. Let's talk a little bit about his, whose pocket is he in?
Hamburger.
Because he must be in quite a few people's pockets. Mr. Pompeo has got very close to the Saudis, especially around MBS. He was the guy who went in and covered it up, isn't he? Well,
this is an oil guy from Kansas. Okay, everybody. This is an oil guy. I think he was born out here in California or something. Pompeo, the Italian oil guy.
I didn't realize he was an oil guy. That's interesting.
Yeah, he's an oil guy. So he had, and that's how he got in.
He's an invention of the Koch brothers.
Yeah, he's an invention of the Koch brothers, but he had like an equipment company that would do big deals with oil, and there was a Chinese component to it and a Saudi component to it, whether clients or business partners. But he has been in bed with the Saudis before he was a member of the House, before he became Mr. Politician. He's an oil guy. He's a guy.
And a good Christian, we're told.
And he came out of West Point. He's not a good Christian. He's a wretched.
Pretends to be a good Christian. But so, Eric, what exactly happened there with MBS and the Saudis? I mean, he was the guy sent over to sort of smooth things over, and he did. Somehow he was able to do it. What's the whole?
Somehow he's able to is they don't care. They don't care if these guys cut people's bodies apart. They don't care. So I mean, it's really very simple. He didn't give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
But where
Trump and Jared and Pompeo are all in with the Saudis. There's nothing that the Saudis can do, the Roy family, MBS can do, that they're not going to create a cover story for, go in and keep smiling, keep trying to wash them up, so we can all go to Davos together. Let's all go, right? There's nothing they won't do for that Saudi
oil and the money.
I don't even want to say it. I can't say it. I'm about to swear in ways that would make even my Jersey mother blush.
Now, soon, what is the word you want to say? I'm dying to know what it is, but don't say
Just text it to me.
Well, let's just say this is devil's urine. The devil's urine.
Okay.
Here's Mike Pompeo, doing anything for the devil's urine for oil.
They are about to sign on to the UAE agreement. I mean, that's sort of the next stage of this thing. Jared's supercharged, so-called peace deal between Israel and the UAE, which is not a peace deal. Saudis are next on that boat ride, and that's going to be there. They'll circle the wagons and say that's a huge achievement for the Trump administration that they've somehow progressed peace, which of course they haven't done anything of the sort. What they have done is created a new alliance in the Middle East that is actually kind of terrifying, because they'll have nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
They'll have the Russians on one side. They'll have the Saudis on the other side, and China's mixing it up in there. Yes, exactly.
And Jared.
China.
So Pompeo's illegally giving our sophisticated weapons. Jared just wants to give them our F-35Bs, just straight out. Just there you go. You can have it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Why the Saudis? Why are the Saudis getting all this stuff?
Because they paid for it.
Why are they? Or
yeah, so much
they're
weaponry.
paying these men for it.
Yeah, I mean, I know that, but yeah.
But
why? It's sort of obvious to me that these guys are being pretty much paid for this. They were bought and paid for. These guys are in power because there's a lot of Saudi money floating around, and Saudis want all these things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, good. Okay.
And that's why it's treason. And for the people that have wanted to argue over the legal definition, well, you have to have a declaration of war. Were they selling us out? Were they going to give away our weapons, our nuclear technology for power? Were we going to be someone else's slaves at the end? Our intelligence product? Were they selling everything out because they are owned? And are these not the most pathetic human beings? These are not even super villains. They don't have the rhetorical flourish of Goebbels. They don't have the organizational style of Hermann Goering. None of them can give a speech like Hitler. They're not Nazis. They're not even they dream of night of being half of what the Nazis were. And those guys lasted 4 years. These are just like, they're just the democracy version of ass
out of
pimples.
4chan. It's really bad. If 4chan could all of a sudden spit out some arms dealers, that's what we got.
Segue to Eric Prince.
God.
What is he doing? Why is he still on the street? Is this guy? Why am I looking at his 5'6" face anymore?
He has. I mean, you guys read the volume 5. It is pretty damning, I think, about Eric Prince more than anybody else. It looks like there's everyone's in it. Like, it's not just like, but Eric Prince doesn't come out looking very good.
He's doesn't come out looking very good. For him.
I think he's got some issues. He's got things happening.
He may be going through some things.
Yeah, I think so, because how is this man? I mean, firstly, I'm not even on camera. Let me find myself on camera again. Sorry. Who's next?
Where are you?
I'm coming. Sorry, there I am.
Take Eric Prince. Take this douche. There's our boy.
I like him up there.
There's Leon Black. There's the Milliken crew.
That's next. That's coming. I'm building up to these guys.
There he is.
Let's go to Leon Black, because everyone knows Eric Prince is in a load of trouble. Let's talk about Leon Black. Let's put him up in the main box here. So this guy, he's actually under investigation now in the British Virgin Isles as part of the Epstein investigation. Because he helped Epstein. He gave Epstein a lot of money, donated to his charities, even after the fact that it was known that he was a human trafficker. And now he's under investigation. Now he's also very connected to Jared Kushner. In fact, I think, or at least I've seen, that there's part of that loan that Brookfield paid Jared Kushner to fund 666 came from Apollo, which is Leon Black's company. 750 million came from there. And then another loan was also given to them, to the Kushners in the White House. So I think this is a big problem coming down the pike for Mr. Kushner.
And I get so excited when we focus on the money,
It's always the money. Yeah, it is always the money.
Excited. So this is actually going to be, I think actually we're going to see a lot of stuff more coming out of the Ghislaine side of this as well with Mr. Black. He's in a lot of trouble, and he doesn't seem to me, I said from day one with Paul Manafort he's born to go to prison. Like he's a
bad criminal. He's a bad guy.
He's one of my guys, right? Like these guys in organized crime, the old world guys, right? That are still by all of that stuff. And he's fine. He knew he was going to have to go away at some point. Probably had plenty of family members, had plenty of sort of grown up in an environment where it's like, oh yeah, you might have to go away, right? So, and he actually looked great coming out of prison. I was like, oh, he looks better. They can't. Sort of his place.
I had this picture of him. Where was his picture
where
up here?
He belongs, and he was clearly thriving.
Okay, so you can sort of see him there. He looks okay. He looks like he's come off a beach.
He looks better. I don't think Bannon or Leon Black are going to do so well. No, I don't think so.
No, they're not creatures of the prison population.
I don't. So what happens is then they just start talking when they can feel that,
he's got a lot to answer for.
Different.
Yeah.
Well, can I hip the audience from my competitive intelligence perspective as to what private equity is and what it's been doing in this?
Go for it. I might even give you the big center.
All right, because now we're in my now we're in my sweet spot because while I've worked with governments a long time and I know the spook game, my real thing is competitive intelligence, looking with an intelligence skill set at what's going on in business behind the scenes. And if you've been doing that as long as I have, you've been watching the increasing prevalence of what's known as private equity, which is a corporate type legal and financial structure that would almost remind you of Wall Street, except they don't follow the same rules as our regular old C corps, big giant corporations that live in an American state and they organize capital, and that capital comes through the stock market, and you and your pension fund, or with your spare capital, I like this company, I'm going to put $200 down on it, and you buy some stock, and then it goes up, and everything's kind of rational. That's your standard corporate finance structure. It can't be mom and pop necessarily. You get family businesses. It's our family has all this money and we own it and it's private. And that's one thing. But most companies, like 30, 40 years ago, most of your really big companies were straight up corporations that raised money through the stock market and paid taxes a certain way. And everything was, you owed quarterly reports out to all those shareholders.
Remember that?
You go to the Securities and Exchange Commission. This is my stuff, guys. Right. You go to the Securities and Exchange Commission database. You go to Edgar database. You start pulling the 10Qs, the 10Ks, the 8Ks. You get your yearly reports, your quarterly reports, where you gotta say, hey, you're putting your money into this, Mr. Consumer, or somebody who's a professional in an investment bank who goes, I really like this company. I'm going to do deeper research than you, small guy. You do this analysis and the information's out. It's not perfect because accounting is a pack of lies agreed upon, is one of the jokes in the business. But it's at least a coherent story that has to be put up under under scrutiny. So that's
the same rules all the time. Accounting, it does have the same rules. They may not be equally applied, but you sort of are the same thing that you look at every time. You know what the rules are and you follow them.
GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles.
Yes.
Except no substitute. So your accountants use GAAP. They may be hedging. Everyone's is. And the SEC, your rules are all the same. You owe a quarterly report at this time. This has got everything has certain rules. Yeah. Well, I've been in this game about 23 years, and every year it's gotten a little more batshit. So one of the things that has thrown everything off is the use of private equity. So private equity, if you have fewer than, I believe, 200 different investors in any deal, you don't have to report.
Oh, really?
That's the thing.
200. That's the limit. I didn't realize.
Yes,
that's all it is.
It's the limit. Yes, because some of these guys get arrogant, and when they think they're undercover, and if they get over, I believe it's 200 partners in the deal, they get over that. All of a sudden, they start leaving trails that they may not remember that they owe. But it's not given as much scrutiny as the major traded stocks and whatnot. Or companies that are on the stock exchange that way. But private equity, you don't have to report. And a lot of that money has come through offshore vehicles from some of these private equity financial companies. So you're getting, you're going to buy a company out, right? You're going to have a private equity company. They're going to amass 500 million, a billion, 1.7 billion, whatever. And they're going to buy, just to pick an example out of my skull, Guitar Center.
Right.
You're going to take something that has 265 stores, does $2 billion out of a $7 billion industry like Guitar Center. Wait a minute, that deal was done by a mix of Bain Capital and Eris Capital, Eris Management, which is run by Tony Ressler, which is Leon Black's, I believe, brother-in-law, and his partner, and they were both the lieutenants to Michael Milken, who Trump pardoned earlier this year, the junk bond king.
Right,
Yes.
I remember that. I think it said
all those junk bonds that bailed out Las Vegas.
Yeah, wasn't
Yes,
it?
they were.
Giuliani was the
stuff eventually.
Giuliani was the guy there. Sorry, he was the prosecutor in Milliken. Yeah, Rudy
Yes.
Giuliani, your old friend.
That's right,
LB.
Yes.
My friend. Yes. I don't know if I want him to be my friend.
He's not your friend.
I have Dare Pascas, my cupcake. I don't know what Giuliani is. I think he's a ghoul.
My cupcake.
He's a ghoul that's sort of like hanging over there over your shoulder. You always look at him. Oh my God.
Well, we'll see what happens. Giuliani is probably leading the. Sorry, don't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
I just I don't know how they're still around. I mean, Mother Nature needs to fix her aim a little bit here. These are the most unhealthy men ever. We're in the middle of a pandemic. What's going on? Why are we still stuck with these people?
Someone on Twitter said that Giuliani could be the one person who gets arrested while on stage at the Republican National Convention, because of so many investigations around him.
I know we all want to see people hauled away in handcuffs, but I think we should just donate to Joe and Kamala, try to put our money and get our vote out, and not. Maybe we'll all be living the dream in real time like that. But I have a feeling we need to actually get a change in the administration and a new attorney general in there, and then we'll start seeing some real movement.
So, Eric, the private equity thing is it tied to Guitar Center is interesting thing, but it's also interesting that the amount of money these guys use to buy sort of distressed assets. They bought a lot of them, and they all bought it from questionable sources of cash. Yeah.
So. You got to, when you look under the hood, when they buy one of these companies, they structure the deal. And let's say you've got the regular banks are in a near ZIRP, what we call it, zero interest rate policy world. So for the banks to lend to each other, grade A paper, you're looking 1%, less than 1%, money for those guys at the financial level or the bank level is damn near free. Right. It's not for if you have a credit card or you have a car, they're
not getting the same interest rates as us. Yeah.
Not at all. But it's interesting when you get money at this level, these private equity guys, what they do is they'll take a company, particularly retail is a good example. Guitar Center was one of the ones that I came by and started analyzing some years ago at their request, ironically. These companies take over these businesses. And they will buy the company out, and they'll call their equity a loan from their company, and they're like, yeah, and you owe us 13.5% for that. Well, wait a minute, a regular business loan or the regular capital markets wouldn't charge anywhere near that. So what they do is they're hoping to flip it back onto the stock market later, or the dumb money, and they charge for management fees for their brilliant management, and then they want to be paid out. They'll do a zero coupon bond, so you don't owe every 6 months. But when we get paid out from the big market, when we're going to take this, we're now private. It's private equity. When we flip that back to the stock market, we've got these financial instruments that we bought the company with that we expect to be paid out 13% year over year. That's a hell of an investment.
That's a really good return, Eric. How can that be guaranteed?
It's a scam. It's a scam.
It's so risky, especially some of these businesses. Yeah, who would? I mean, these are geniuses. They're so rich. They should be geniuses.
What happens if that is a fixed thing? What happens to those people?
Oh, you mean if there's control fraud?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna lay out something I don't think I've ever gone public with. When I saw the number of companies that were in this circumstance where there was just rampant criminality, I started asking around sort of the folks that might enforce that. I'm like, how are these people out of jail? And I found out how many businesses are running like this. And there was fear that if we start investigating and prosecuting, where the hell do we stop?
Everything
That's
right.
That's one of the things that has kept these scumbags in their unearned position in society, because it's not just money. It's their kids going to nice schools. It's them having nice houses and your roads collapsing and you losing your job and them getting everything. This is, at the end of the day, just social position. How have they gotten that? A lot.
It's robber baron territory. That's where we're back in that.
And you know what else? Yep. You know what else? Look, this guy, Vladimir Putin over here at a conference with Leon Black.
Kirill Dmitriev.
Yeah, look at that. They're just a few at the RDIF, because why not? Why not go there and hang out in 2012 and every year afterwards and be on the board of the RDIF because you want to be friends with the nice.
He's on the board.
People. He was on the board. He no longer is on the board. I think it became a little bit of an embarrassment, but he was on the board, and now you know why he was on the board. So he got a lot of money from Mr. Putin. Did Black? We lost him in the picture there, but there is a lot of Russian money that flowed through him and through Milken and through Schwartzman. Is another one. That's all these guys
and
have.
Jeffrey Epstein managed a lot of that.
He did, yeah, without any fund managers, which is amazing.
It's just not good for these guys.
It's not good, and because Jared Kushner. Let me show you this.
Yeah.
I mean, you've probably seen the story, but I'll just put it up here for a second. Jared Kushner, this is while in the White House, he got this giant loan from Apollo while in the White House, which I find kind of stunning.
While in the White House.
Basically,
did he mention it on his SF-86? He must have updated it.
I don't think he did, Eric. What happens if you don't mention that if you lie on your SF-86, Eric? What happens?
Well, for normal people, you go to prison.
You go to prison.
Jared looks like the most crimed up guy there, doesn't he?
Big boy prison.
Big boy prison. But
he has to go to big boy prison with his permanent security. Does he keep permanent security clearance when he's in prison? Yes, you do, Jared. You'll still have your permanent security clearance.
You could keep handing your secrets over.
With his Sharpie in his crayons. This is my permanent.
Well, the thing is about Jared is he's tied into the Deutsche Bank. There's his banker, Rosemary, which we've discussed before, and it's the same banker as Donald Trump, same banker who likes a lot of these sort of larger investor types with an unpredictable track record, and so Jared's obviously under scrutiny currently by Mr. Vance in Manhattan, who's looking at the Deutsche Bank things because he needs to do that's his job, So, boy, that could get messy. Could get messy for Jared. Could get really, really messy.
Yeah,
I mean, this is just the idiot head of the criminal snake. I mean, just these dunderheads. But the thing is, there's an entire.
That's the greatest word for them. I haven't heard that yet.
Dunderhead.
They are dunderhead.
I mean, I'm not afraid of an F-bomb, but I feel like I don't want to give them that kind of power. They're disgusting, sure, but they're also just. I mean, they are store-bought, leftover semi-Nazis. They're not even good. They're not even Khmer Rouge guys. They're just not smart, and they just think they're geniuses, and they don't realize no, guys, the only reason you made it this far is because so much of your stuff was in counterintelligence that the FBI and the DOJ is we
don't know.
We
can't stop them because we don't know how to stop this.
Where do we? Yeah, and it's the same thing for the SEC, the IRS. All these guys are how do we pull the plug? And then more criming happens, and then more treason happens. It's where do we start? Where do we start? And then they're like, maybe you get close, and they're like, crash the stock market, crash the mortgage market, blow everything up. And then Obama gets elected and is like, yes, we can. And then everyone votes for him, right? And then they're like, he's a socialist, he's a bad guy, I still want my bonuses. And to his credit, it only took Obama and Bob Mueller about 2 years to declare war on the global mob. They're like, we're taking your money first. Bratva, Chinese triads, Italians, all you sons of bitches, we're taking your money. We're starting with the money.
Is that even though people,
it was on.
Even though people think it's been three and a half years too long for us to crack down on everyone that has been surrounding Donald Trump and enabling Donald Trump, it's actually not a very long time at all. And what we're seeing right now with all these investigations and all these indictments and all these arrests is that stuff's happening. Stuff's really happening. And it seems to be building momentum as it's getting closer to the elections. So we're not done. We may be a little bit of the way in. And things are beginning to move very quickly. It's a lot to focus on, and that's why we wanted to do tonight's show. Just give everyone,
I think that's a great. I think that's a great sort of transition to Eric Trump. So here's what we learned about Eric Trump: that he and his team and everyone in the administration is not saying out. They're saying weird things about it, but they're not saying what actually happened. So Eric Trump, he pleaded the Fifth.
Right.
He
Right.
did.
Right.
He took the Fifth Amendment. Because in one of the investigations where he's supposed to, was it the one into the charity?
I think it was I think it's the tax evasion ones, but I think it was the charity one that they wanted him to talk to him in the charity one.
I can't remember which one.
Yeah.
There's so much going on, right? That he's this poor dupe, right? I mean, he's just a dupe for his crime family. I don't think Eric's like, you know how you like big families. I actually come from, my parents have really big families, and on my mom's side, a big Roman Catholic family. And there was one kid they would always forget. Like when they're going to
You forget their name or just forget them, like a house alone.
We forgot the kid. Always forgetting the kid, like Home Alone, except you just so many kids, you just end up forgetting one. There's only like a few kids in Eric's family, but I feel like they're just going to forget about him. Like they're all going to make their plans and run away and go somewhere. And they're like, we forgot Eric, right?
They probably have,
Eric's like holding the bag for everything. You're right. So
Noel always, sorry to interrupt, but Noel always says that he's Giuliani's son. I don't know whether he's joking about that or whether he's being serious.
That's some real tea that's getting spilled there.
Is it really? It's interesting.
I don't have that same information, but I think Noel is in a real position to hear all of that gossip right from people's mouths.
He's going to be here on Friday, so we can ask him.
We're gonna have to ask him about Eric. He knows a lot about Eric.
Oh, it's going to be interesting.
It's really amazing. So anyway, Eric he's in trouble. He's kind of taken the fall for some stuff that everyone was involved in, but it's zeroing on him, and he's refusing to show up and give prosecutors the interviews that they're demanding. He's refusing. And in one case, he's saying, I have to plead the Fifth, although he's calling it other things, coming up with creative terms for it. I can't even remember the creative terms because they don't want to be so obviously mobby. But it's because it looks like it's connected to, I don't want to incriminate this other investigation into me. So I shouldn't have to give you information that's going to be bad over here for this investigation. So it does look like behind the scenes, even though they're coming from different, I think even like one might be Cy Vance, another might be Tish James.
I think that's true. Well, yeah, Weisselberg is working with Cy Vance,
right. That there may be coordination happening. They may be.
I'm thinking there's a lot coming down the pike that way.
Massive crime family. People really need to get that. This is a big crime family.
Yep.
For decades.
Weisselberg.
It was with Fred. It is with Donald, and now it is with the kids. They're a crime family. Decades and decades and decades of this. And
they've been lying about their worth.
Money laundering and fraud. And there's probably a whole shit ton of RICO in there we don't know about. Yeah. So, it is gonna come tumbling down. There's no way it's not gonna come tumbling down.
Trumpling down. That's a whole new word. It will get to, and it has to get to Trump because like every good mob investigation, it's got to go to the head, and they'll need to go there. So it's rolling it up. That's exactly correct. That's the first thing I learned from you. So there we go.
Say it again. That there's a lot of RICO. Can you say that again?
There's a lot of RICO. We haven't seen
RICO?
it. I said RICO.
I'm gonna get an audio effects button for RICO whenever someone says the word RICO.
RICO.
We need some sound effects, Zev.
I've got a whole keypad here. I just haven't programmed them yet. So tell me what you want, and I'll throw it in there. Also, tell people again how to donate.
Whatever the sound is of a body dissolving in acid, we should have that for Steve Bannon. And I think the other thing now to switch over to him and talk about him, and I want Eric to weigh in on all this, but you brought up, Zev, of like, Bannon, there's other people in there with Bannon that Bannon can implicate, not just the Trumps, but he's got Prince, he's got,
he's got
the
Chinese
in there working with him. Like, what's he gonna say? I believe Bannon's gonna spill the beans on everybody. He's a cannibal. I call him Bannibal.
He's also tied
He's
into Brexit. There's a lot of things that he can talk about. There's just a lot that he knows about that he probably is the only one who knows it. And he knows Cambridge Analytica probably better than anybody else because, he's part of the design team of that. So, that'll be really interesting to see what he comes up with. And he's not going to jail. You know that. He'll talk his way and sing his way out of that very quickly.
No.
So there we go. Let's end the show there because I think we've covered all our peeps. It's almost time for the RNC. We want to go and get our seats, make sure we don't miss a word. Tonight, it's Pompeo from Jerusalem, also the First Lady, who's going to try to do a speech that she actually wrote herself, or that's had someone wrote for her, but not Michelle Obama. So that'll be interesting tonight because, last time she basically cribbed the speech from the former First Lady. So we'll see if she can come up with something herself this time around. And who knows what else. Mark Burnett, your favorite, is producing. So we'll
it
be
certainly
watching.
Seems that way. That's the word that's out there, is that he's behind this production. We'll see.
Right. Don't fall for this propaganda. It really is propaganda. Actually, if you listen to some of these speeches, they make no sense. They're just a bunch of words strung together with no policy, just like platitudes and great sounding things, but there's nothing in there at all. And so
you gotta love that. I forget the blonde's name last night who was complaining the Democrats want death with dignity. I just love that so much. It's like, the GOP will have no dignified death. Instead of palliative care, we'll use you as stunt doubles and cheap low budget action films and shoot you out of a cannon at things. Forget CGI, we've got old sick people. The GOP die awesome. Woo!
Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Support Narrative's independent journalism at patreon.com/narrative and check out our podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and don't forget to subscribe